Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Naren Harwani, and with us again we have today Ankush Ahuja. We doesn't need any introduction. He is a F1 enthusiast. He is a very big Kimi Räikkönen fan. He's been following F1 since more than 15 years, and he's also a very enthusiast with respect to collecting memorabilia, and he runs his own motorsport blog at technocrat.postheaven.com. So a very big welcome to Ankush Ahuja, and
Thank you, Naren.
yes, if you would just like to add to the introduction, that'd be great, Ankush.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me again on your YouTube channel, Naren. It's quite a privilege to be here with you. And yeah, very been a very big Formula One fan since 1998, since the Hakkinen days. And once Hakkinen did call it a day, it was time to switch to Raikkonen, the next Finn on the F1 grid. And yeah, it's been quite a crazy ride with him over the years, from his years at McLaren. In fact, I mean, of course, he was there for 1 year at Sauber, but never really followed him back then because Hakkinen was still around. But then, yeah, then the McLaren years to Ferrari, then out of Formula One, back into Formula One with Lotus, then back to Ferrari, and then, calling it off with Sauber again in his uh, final 3 years in Formula One from 2019 till 2021.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's been quite a crazy journey and been fortunate enough, blessed enough to to attend races in Europe, in Canada, in US, also in Asia, following Raikkonen all around the world, trying to get as close to him as possible, and in that process, ended up meeting few other people on the grid as well. Some famous personalities, some not so famous, but nevertheless they were there. So it was good fun. Yeah,
Nice.
got some innumerable memories and experiences, and hopefully with travel restrictions opening up again, being lifted, in fact, and India opening its international borders for 100% passenger traffic to get resumed. Hopefully, I'll get to travel again this year, God willing. So, yeah.
Great. That sounds super exciting. Of course, I think I'm sure I recently saw a comment as well on Instagram, like people commenting saying that they're jealous of your collection as well. I mean, they surely say it in the healthy manner way for sure. Because
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah, of
I,
course, of
after
course.
reading that comment, I was gonna message you. I am super jealous for sure. But yeah,
Probably, I can show you guys the collection on one of uh, your
sure,
features later on your YouTube channel. So
sure. That'll be my
still
pleasure.
have a
Please.
couple of things to come in. Hopefully, they should be in by the end of April. I'm hoping. So fingers crossed for that.
That'll be
And then
my
yeah,
pleasure indeed. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
love to
So
show you guys around. Yeah,
yeah, that'll be my pleasure indeed for sure. So yeah, let's stay away, uh, deep dive into the race that we've just witnessed, the 2022 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So what are your thoughts after the race? Immediate feelings after the race? Coach, run us through that, please.
well, first up, it's been quite an eventful weekend with all that is happening off track as well,
Yep.
and opinions have been divided quite a lot, which is expected. And if we were to actually open that topic up, then it's like it can go either way.
Yes.
So
Yes.
sticking to the racing bit for now, I think first up, you know, thanks to the Almighty that Mick Schumacher is doing good.
Yes.
He's okay after yesterday's high speed crash.
Yep.
It was quite a dangerous crash to see in real time as well. The way he lost the rear of that Haas and the way
Yes.
it cleared into both the barriers. In fact, that barrier was quite a hard one, and it was almost a 57-minute delay. That's what we got
Yes.
to know on the stream, which was quite a lengthy delay for qualifying. Thankfully, it's a night race, and um, we had time on our hand, so qualifying was able to go ahead. But more importantly, Mick was safe. That's very important. And yeah, the race did go ahead. Um, I have to feel for Sonoda as well, who didn't get to start due
Yep.
to a problem on his Red Bull powertrain Alpha Tauri. But but yeah, overall, a very hectic race again. A lot of wheel-to-wheel battles. even though it's a street circuit, the high-speed nature of Saudi Arabia has actually produced, some really good overtaking opportunities. And in a way, after all the claims that Formula One management have made, and I think you can say that this era of Formula One is seeing a fair bit of racing, wheel-to-wheel battles. And Max also pointed out today that if you're within half a second of the car in front, you actually find it a lot easier to get closer to the guy who's
Yes.
defending. So yeah, in a way, it's good to know that Formula One is now going into the right direction, and we are actually getting to see racing as Formula One has promised that it should be for 2022. So yeah, and yeah, kudos to Max. There was a lot of uh, tactics that were got employed towards the end by
Yeah.
both Charles and Max, and both were playing to their strengths. But eventually, that straight line speed of the Red Bull, along with, of course, the yellow flag towards the end due to the clash between Stroll and Verstappen, kind of settled the battle right there. So yeah, kudos to Max
Yes.
there, and well done to Charles and Carlos as well.
Yes, I think the way Max and Charles battled it out, I think Charles was really smart with respect to his overtaking move, right? I think we saw it in Bahrain as well, where he just deliberately didn't put into eighth gear and he just let Max pass him and then immediately taking advantage of the DRS and overtook him in the next turn. So I think similar move that he did over here, and I think it worked out well for him the first time, and the second time it got really tricky. Like both of the drivers didn't want to go first, and then both locked out. And then Max was like, okay, Charles was like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this and just going to get past. And then I think in the last time, Max was really smart enough, like okay, he's like, okay, I'm not going to buy that right now. The second time around, and he ensured that okay, Charles was ahead of me in the last one, and after that, going to the straight, he overtook Charles for P1. I think a very smart game. I think they both are totally enjoying it out there. I think it's just the second race of the 2022 F1 season, and we already have a battle in our hands with Max and Charles, and we saw that in Bahrain as well. So I think great, like you said, F1's going in the right direction. I think, and we're seeing some exciting battles, and literally like it was literally exactly like how last time happened, like Bahrain GP. They were quite close to each other. Both of them were, it was hard racing, and then literally like I got a feeling in between, like okay, that the second time. Charles was like Max was trying to overtake Charles. I think okay, this is the time. Maybe they could possibly end up crashing. I didn't definitely want
Oh
them to
boy,
crash, but
oh
then
boy, yeah.
yeah, it was quite close, hard racing, and we really enjoy that. I think that's what F1 fans want: close racing, hard racing, and Max and Charles are giving literally F1 a really good advertisement, right?
Well, I think also some of it is also down to the fact that these guys race with each other online as well during
Yes,
the breaks. So you got Lando, you got Charles, you've got Max, you've got
yes,
George, and I think there's somebody else, Albon, of course. So
yeah.
so these guys kind of know each other well, even in the online circuit. So there is a good amount of respect and camaraderie. So it's not like you know uh, the weapons are out and we're going to hack each other down. But also interestingly, Charles's tactic to employ the same style of defense that he did in Bahrain was very different here because the start finish straight DRS zone is quite long,
Yeah.
and both were actually wanting to have that DRS more than the one that's before the last turn. So that in a way kind of uh, were messing things up. But again, Red Bull with its straight line speed was able to defend even against a Ferrari that had DRS against it. So there is a lot of top end grunt that Red Bull has, and of course, once Max did have the DRS under him, he had a lot of straight line speed, and the Ferrari kind of looked like a sitting duck. But then if you look at Charles, Charles was able to close in a lot in the second sector. That that was also the sector where he was extending his lead over Max, to 8 tenths or 9 tenths of a second, sometimes even more than a second. But then Max was able to get him back on in the final sector. So it was a very seesaw battle, quite a lot of racing that we saw. Interestingly, if you were to compare this to the other two drivers from the same teams, that is Sainz and Perez, they were not able to kind of do the same kind of driving or employ the same kind of tactics that Max and Charles were able to do against each other. On that note, of course, you have to feel for Sergio as well because uh, he did everything right on a Saturday, and then he
Yes.
had this victory taken away from him. But then coming back to the Max and Charles battle, I think, um, of course, one might say that Charles would have had a shot at it had there not been the yellow flag in the last two laps of the race. But I still think that Red Bull was too strong, and once Max did get the lead, he would be able to fend off any challenge, if Charles was to pose any against him. So yeah, there is again, how drivers employ their defense or attack. It's going to be very important. Of course, now we're going to Australia, which is again a street circuit, but you don't
Yeah.
have the same kind of leverage with DRS like you have in Saudi Arabia or Bahrain for that matter. So it's going to be more of a procession, if I can put it that way. Of course, there will be overtaking opportunities, but they will be few and far between. Also, interestingly, with like you rightly pointed out, with those two lockups, Max had such a big lockup on his
Yes.
tires. Uh, you would be looking at flat spots on both the front tires, so there would be a lot of vibrations coming through that cockpit. But then
Yeah.
again, it also talks about the tire deck that Pirelli's had. Of course, both are on hard tires, so there is going to be a fair amount of rubber left even towards the end. But Pirelli has done quite a good job when it comes to tire deck now. So you know, I actually thought that Max's challenge would peter out then because of the flat spots that he might have incurred. But then he was able to continue the way he did, and kudos to him for that.
Yes, I think literally it was a super exciting battle. I think literally all fans must have been on their toes throughout the Max and Charles battle. I think
We
definitely
kind of
literally.
missed the we kind of missed that screening, so we don't really know how crazy the fan
Yeah,
must have gone. But then
yeah,
it is Bahrain encore, and this time you actually had Max finishing the race rather than ending up
yes, yes, yes,
in
yes, yes.
retirement, which was good to see because he did well then and he did well here as well. So yeah, credit where credit's due. And Charles eventually did get the fastest lap point from him, which might prove pivotal towards the end of the season. We don't know how
Yes.
the season's going to pan out. So
Yes, yes, definitely. I think each point, we saw it last season, right? I think each point or even half a point is really important
yeah,
in
mm,
F1. I think last year was just a perfect example of that. Like literally, they're fighting for half points, and even in Spa, where they didn't finish and they got like the entire race got half points. So I think each point's important. And Charles Leclerc, I think he's literally shown that he is in for the championship, right? I think he's got the driver of the day. He's got the fastest lap point. He's finished in P2. He was in contention for P1. Yes, he was leading the race for quite a bit, and even in Bahrain, right? He got a hat trick. He scored P1. He was the fastest. He got the fastest lap, and he was in pole position as well. So I think Charles Leclerc seems to be the favorite. Like I think last video we've done, like we said all money on Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, right?
let's be honest about it. Uh, considering Ferrari's recent run of form up until last year, we kind of tend to forget, the talent and caliber that guys like Charles and Carlos possess in that team. Let's
Yes,
not forget that Charles was champion in the past. He has set records in GP2, and he was
yes,
flawless. In fact, practically untouchable, unchallenged in those title battles. With Max, of course, Ocon got the better of him in Formula 3, but once he made it into the big league, he's not
yes,
really uh, put a foot wrong. In fact, winning his debut race for Red Bull back in 2016 in Spain, fending off two Ferraris, Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel. I remember that race because I was there live.
okay,
Yeah, one of the more memorable memories of Raikkonen's time at Ferrari. So But yeah, I mean, so let's not forget, Charles is has been a world champion. He
Yeah.
knows how to win races, and he's a very good tactician at it. And now with the car that has performance under it, he's able to go out there, strut his stuff, make a point, and he's making a strong case for himself when it comes to the championship chances. Of course, it's just the second race of the season. You still have 21 to go. There are a lot of different tracks that will be coming your way. Now, Australia is, like I said, is a totally different ball game
Yes.
compared to what we've seen in the first two rounds. And then you've got Imola, I think that's next after that. So yeah, there is going to be uh, lot of changes in terms of car balance, outright grunt. So probably Ferrari might be stronger in Australia because you don't really need the top end grunt. So yeah, overall we might have a better understanding of where how things stand. Probably once we are 4 or 5 races into the season. But as of now, based on what we've seen so far, yes, Charles is right up there, and it's a safe bet to put Charles. It's a safe bet if you're
Yes.
putting your money on Charles. So yeah,
Yes. Yes. And I think
you can't go
definitely.
wrong there.
Definitely, I think with the performances in the first two races, I think Charles Leclerc for sure it is
Yeah,
in contention for the championship, and Max Verstappen already is a championship winner last year. So I think both of them
of course.
definitely, yeah,
With Red Bull suffering a double DNF in Bahrain, it's kind of put them back on the in terms of the constructors. But if Max and Red Bull continue with the performances
yeah,
like they put in tonight, the disparity and the points delta will reduce very rapidly. So yeah, of course, Ferrari is not going to be sitting with their hands folded either, considering the fact that they've got
yeah,
such a potent car under them.
yeah.
They will be going all out this time to make a statement. It's high time that Ferrari actually reclaim the top step of
Yes,
the
definitely. I
Formula
think
One title. So
that's what all Ferrari fans have been waiting for. I think
yeah, yeah, it's
it's
long
been
due. Let's be honest about it.
long time no podium for Ferrari. But yeah, it's been they've got two podiums at start of the season. Like
Yeah,
both Ferrari on podium for both races. I think
yeah,
that kind of says that okay they are in contention for the contenders for the
yeah,
constructors championship as well and for the drivers championship as well. So let's
yeah,
see how the battle pans out between Max Charles and Ferrari Red Bull. And let's move
yeah,
on to how the race panned out for uh, Sergio Perez. I think he started on pole position. He first, in fact, he got pole position after what 215 races and
yeah.
11 years in F1. I think that itself, like he broke like two records yesterday. Like the man who got pole position after the most
Mark
number of
Webber.
races. Yeah,
After Mark
and
Webber, I think Mark Webber was 130 races, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
yes, yes, and now he kind of was on pole position. He kind of was leading the race. He got a great start. Was in P1 till the start of the race where the safety car came where Nicholas Latifi crashed and he. I think Ferrari pulled off a really good strategy as well. Like they kind of let Sergio Perez in. Like they went on the radio and they said, okay,
Box to
pit,
overtake.
yeah, box right now, box to overtake and. That itself on that particular lap, Sergio Perez went to the pitch, and that was an early pit stop for Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc didn't pit, and the very next lap, I think Latifi crashed, and we saw a safety car, a virtual safety car, which kind of pulled in the hands of gave an advantage to Ferrari and
Yeah,
Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, who kind of came into P2 and P3 after that. So. Uh, Charles Leclerc into P1 and Carlos Sainz into P3 after that. So
yeah,
yeah, very unlucky to say. I think I think Sergio Perez was there for the win. He kind of wanted to win. I think that would have been a really good win for him as well. But unfortunate, I think. For him. What are your thoughts
yeah.
on his race?
Well, as a Raikkonen fan, I know what being fortunate and unfortunate in motorsports is. I mean, I've seen fair amount of mechanical failures during Raikkonen's time at McLaren,
Yeah.
and even with Ferrari, not even starting a race in Malaysia. I remember,
Hmm.
despite being on the front row. So, incidentally, it is nice to hear Ferraris, easing their strategies because that has been their, one of their weakest points
Yes.
over the last couple of seasons. Some of their decision making has not really been up to the mark, if we can put it in a nicer way. But yeah, talking about Checo, he did nothing wrong uh, up until that point.
Yeah.
Did a brilliant lap in quali, 200ths of a second. That's fine margins. I mean, you can't really, if you were to compare, Charles' lap against Checo's lap, it's very difficult to differentiate, where that advantage
Yes.
was gained. So, and then, he was actually managing the race very well. The race pace was good. He was maintaining a good lap, a good gap to Charles throughout that time. But then, this is what happens when you are actually the lead car. The guy behind can react to what you do rather
Yes.
than. And then, of course, the teams would be looking at data. And, of course, there would be it was a given that there would be a VSC or a safety car because of the narrowness of the track and the high speed
Hmm.
nature of it. So I mean, you have to, sometimes these things just go against you, and it's like Raikkonen used to say, this is just part of motor racing. Sometimes they go your way, sometimes they don't. You just have to accept facts as they are. Of course, you have to feel sad for Checo because it wasn't just losing a position to Charles; he actually lost P2 to Max as well, and
Yes.
uh, then the VSC converted into a safety car, which meant that he ended up ahead of Science first, but then due to the safety car line being where it was, he had to
Hmm.
return the place back on the
Yeah.
restart. But then, like I said in the earlier part of the video, uh, the tactics that Max and Charles were able to employ, so, Carlos and Perez were not able to, do that same amongst each other. And Checo was kind of stuck behind Carlos for a very long time. And although Carlos has been called to the stewards, I think that that decision is still
Yes.
pending under
Yes.
the yellow flags. So, and I think Perez also has been
Yes.
flagged.
Even Kevin
But
Magnussen.
yeah,
Yeah. All three.
so anyways, it's going to be status quo even if they do end up scoring penalties. So yeah, it's mm, you have ecstasy on a Saturday, and then suddenly you have for no fault of your own, something taken away like this. But yeah, just unfortunate. You do feel for him, and you do hope that he's able to make it back up again. But then, but then again, sometimes it kind of makes me think, if it was Max in P4, uh, chasing, let's say, the two Ferraris ahead of him, would he be able to, would he actually end up like a Sergio Perez, or would he actually end up like a Max Verstappen at the end? So that
Yeah.
kind of explains, the kind of motivation and drive. Of course, uh, we, let's not. It's just early days, but we know, where the precedence lies, if I can put it that way in a nicer
Yeah.
way. So uh, there is, they have a Max Verstappen who's the current world champion under the belt. So under in the roster. So of course uh, there is a little bit of what I mean.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
Yeah, but anyways, I mean, of course, Perez, uh, Checo, uh, if if you were to see that, like in Baku last year when Lewis locked up his brakes at turn one at the restart, uh, had he not done that, of course, then Checo would have ended up P2. But Checo kind of got that win thanks to Lewis
Yes.
making that mistake with his brakes. Um, but yeah, I mean, these things, like I said, can go either way. So in Baku it went his way, but unfortunately here it went against him. But then
Yeah.
that's part of motor racing. All you
This
have to do is
is Formula One.
just yeah, just take it in and move on to the next round. You have to just keep your head down and keep pushing. Hopefully, it'll come back to him later in the year. And but yeah, he is looking stronger than what he was last year,
Yeah.
and he's looking a lot more settled. But then that's what happens when you're in the second year at a team. And Red Bull will be very happy to see the performances that he's putting in now compared to what he was putting in last year, and even in terms of qualifying, because whatever be whoever be the championship contender, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
you need both the cars on the sharp end of the grid to
Yes.
put pressure on your rivals. So the other driver always is pivotal in all these battles. Like Verstappen today. On lap one, he was able to clear signs very quickly, so that kind of put him right into contention for the win. If Carlos had actually held his line better and probably kept Max behind for a couple of laps or 3 laps even, we could have seen Charles and Sergio pull away and
Yes.
probably even have that advantage. Of course, that advantage got negated later due to the safety car, but it could have been a different outcome for all. So it all depends on how the other driver uh, against the one who's ahead, how he defends and how he controls the race pace of the guys behind. That is
Yeah.
very pivotal in Formula One.
Yes, I think that's Formula One. I think anything's possible. You kind of there are more bad days in F1 than there are good days, and within a
Yeah,
couple of seconds, anything can happen, and it
yeah,
can change the entire outcome of the race. Like we've seen today, like we've seen in the past, and we'll see in the future as well. This is F1,
yeah.
like very
I
really
mean,
unfortunate.
you look at Lewis as well, right? You had you had Alonso with that issue, the overheating issues, and then suddenly you had Daniel Ricciardo, whose car broke down,
Yes, 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 yes.
and then the pit lane was closed, and Lewis could not come in, but the other guys who pitted, I think it was K-Mag and
Yeah, Nico
Stroll.
Hulkenberg.
Oh, Hulkenberg. Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah.
so they came in and they were able to get their pit stops in just before the pit lane entry got closed. I think the Aston Martins were just servicing Hulkenberg's car when the pit lane entry closed.
Yeah,
So that's how
yes,
that
yes, yes,
fine margins again. Fine margins. That's how, like I said, it can go either ways.
yes,
Sometimes it goes
exactly.
against you. Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't.
The one lap changed again, like safety car coming in. I think
Yeah,
Daniel Ricciardo stopped, Alonso facing the issue, Daniel Ricciardo stopped, Valtteri Bottas was in the pits, all three out of the race. And
yeah,
like you said, like someone got an opportunity to pit and take advantage of that. I think it was advantage Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg, and Lewis Hamilton, whereas all three had an advantage because they didn't
yeah,
pit earlier and they were on
yeah.
hard
Hard,
sort
hard set. Yeah, yeah,
hard sort of tires, and they possibly could have taken advantage and gone for a medium or a hard medium set of tires, new set of tires for the later part of the race. But I think only Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg could take advantage, and Lewis Hamilton, unfortunate, I think very unlucky. I think this is the first time I think Lewis Hamilton has been unlucky. I mean, I'm pretty sure he must have
yeah.
been unlucky a lot of times, but I think most
No,
of the
I
times
think
he's really
I think
lucky.
yeah, it goes his way rather than against him most of the time. But
Yes, yes. Like last time,
but then
in
he
the last race, he got P3 out of nowhere,
yeah,
and in this race, he was. I mean, he could have and he should have taken advantage, but it didn't. Like, it didn't fell
yeah.
in his bucket this time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel for Lewis in terms of how the mighty have fallen suddenly. The Mercedes powered cars are nowhere, and the factory Mercedes is struggling the way they are. And Russell seems to be more settled than Lewis in that car with all
Yes.
their proposing and balance issues. And it was quite a shocker to see him out of Q1. I think he hasn't had that kind of a performance since 2009.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's 13 years now. Wow, that's quite a long time
Yes, I
for a
think
driver.
that's incredible. I think Lewis Hamilton getting out of Q1, I think that's a shocker for the 2022 F1 season for sure. I think it kind of says that, Mercedes are really struggling with respect to the setup of the car.
Yeah. The other one, I mean, the one live race that I remember where Lewis actually ran into a problem was Hockenheim 2018. I'm sorry, since I know that you're a Seb fan, I'm like touching a raw nerve right there. But he had a gearbox failure, I remember, in qualifying. I
Yes,
think that was in Q2 in Hockenheim. And I still remember him sitting like this, next to his car and absolutely distraught. And then out of nowhere, he ended up winning that race. And
yes,
that was actually the title changing race
yes, yes, yes,
um,
yes.
in that
More of
way.
a F1 fan right now than Sebastian Vettel fan. I think
Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel definitely a
Oh,
really
yeah.
good
Wishing
semi.
him a speed. I mean, wishing him
Yep.
recovery from his COVID bout. It's
Yes, yes, yes. Hope he
but,
does recover soon.
yeah. Of course, now he's got a fortnight until Australia, so he should be fit and fine by then. And
Yep.
hopefully, we can see him back in that Aston Martin doing his showcasing his masterclass. If we can
Yes,
put it
yes,
that way.
yes,
But yeah,
yes.
back to Mercedes. I think yeah, it's not really looking too nice for them. Probably
Yep.
Australia, they would be in a better position because it's not really a speed track, so they can get away with not having that straight line speed. So we probably might see them. in the upper half or more in the mix, the top six or the top seven. But let's see
Yep.
how things pan out by then. They still have 2 weeks, so they might be bringing in upgrades as well. So,
Yes, yes, yes. Let's hope Mercedes do come to the battle. I think three teams are battling it out at the front. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes would be really good fun. And the drivers that they have, Max, Charles, Russell, I think that'll be really interesting as well.
yeah,
When Russell comes to the picture, I think it's going to be super exciting. I think he's a really good driver and he can give a good fight to Max and Charles as well. So let's hope they really pull up their socks, get the right setup soon, and
mm.
we get an exciting battle to witness.
I think it's really difficult to pinpoint on the third best team on the grid right now, if I can put it that way, based on what I've seen today. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Previously, last week I thought Mercedes would be there, but then I know Russell has been there, of course,
Yeah.
but it's you would rather have both the drivers up there, so than just one. So like Norris today ended up P7, and McLaren were absolutely nowhere in Bahrain. So
Yes.
and then, but you know, Haas has been consistent, and unfortunately, had it not been for Mick's crash yesterday, we probably might have seen both the Haas cars inside
True.
the top 10. And Valtteri also suffered a DNF today, but I think Alpha Tauri also doesn't seem to be too reliable. But again, it's a powertrain related issue that they had on Sonoda's car rather than anything
Yeah.
else. So yeah, I mean it's difficult to pinpoint the third best team, but I think Mercedes, with the history that they have, with the resources that they have, it would be one can say that yeah, eventually they will come up there.
Yes.
Whether they will be a race winning team, I hope they are, because they've done so well in the turbo era. They've worked really hard to be where they are, and and the kind of accomplishments that they have had in breaking a lot of records along the way. So it's obviously you would want to see them up there, and
Yes.
with Russell and his talent and the youthful experience that he has now, with his time at Williams and now in a much struggling Mercedes, the way he's actually fighting wheel to wheel with guys in the top six, trying to maximize results from a car that's not really right there, right up to where they want it to be. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's hope that Mercedes eventually does come to the party.
Yes, I just recollected a meme that I just saw on F1 Hindi, like, basically just that where then possibly in 3 Idiots where they show like this guy is just going to see his result and he's like अरे नीचे से देख
Huh.
नीचे से देख
Uh,
there's for Lewis
yeah,
Hamilton unfortunately I mean, like Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes Lewis Hamilton checking out its qualifying result and then put that meme where the
yeah.
student is checking the result right from the bottom. So yeah, I mean that's really funny, really unfortunate, and I hope Mercedes too get their uh, set up right and like battle up. I think that'd be really cool and really interesting to see.
In a way, it was also a race of attrition. You had only 14 finishers, six,
Yes,
five non-finishers, and one did not start. So yeah, it wasn't really. I think even the top three drivers, if you see, they were dehydrated and tired, and the heat would have taken a toll on them. So
sure. Yeah, I
of
think
course, if the drivers were in that state, then the machinery also would be going through a fair amount of duress over the course of that race.
yes. So I think the temperatures must be really quite windy, quite humid there and hot as
Yeah,
well. So must be quite difficult to race in those conditions
yeah.
with the new cars and even for poising effect that they have. Right? I think that's just
Uh,
like head banging and yeah, it's quite
there's
quite a
bobbleheads,
quite a crazy
bobbleheads.
thing in F1 that we're seeing like for poisoning like
Yeah.
very when they show the helmet cam right I think
Oh,
it's really crazy like Lewis Hamilton here actually I think that's shown on literally like
the kind of forces that the neck would be going through in
yeah
terms of fitness.
yep
It's amazing.
yep even Haas
But
I think
also,
Haas I like to
yeah,
point out like even their
yeah,
overtake like Kevin Magnussen he
yeah,
literally pulled off a Charles Leclerc like he pulled off the exact same move on Fernando Alonso like he let Fernando Alonso pass Oh, sorry, he pulled out the move on Lewis Hamilton. He let Lewis
Lewis
Hamilton
Hamilton, yeah,
pass. Yeah,
Hamilton,
he
yeah.
let Lewis Hamilton pass in the last turn, and he ensured that he got DRS in the first turn, going to the straight, and he overtook him again over there. I think he pulled off exactly like a Charles Leclerc move on Lewis Hamilton, and definitely the second time round, Lewis Hamilton understood that, and he overtook him in the next go itself. But yeah, I think that's really exciting to see K-Mac fight against Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, right? I think he even I think last Bahrain they starting he was fighting against Lewis Hamilton. I think Haas, like who finished last in the 2021 championship, he's fighting against Lewis Hamilton. I think that's what is kind of surprising, yes, but I think it's really good to see that Haas is kind of making progress this year. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
You read my mind actually because I was going to talk about K-Mag, and you brought it up right there.
Okay.
But in a way, again, sorry for the comparison with Kimi again, but we've seen that when somebody takes a sabbatical from the sport and then he comes back in, they
Yeah.
tend to have a different level of performance. In a way, if you see K-Mag in his previous time at Haas, he kind of had reached a plateau in terms of performance, and he's not
Yes.
really able to step up. And a lot of his radio communications were all about frustration. This
Yes.
is the worst car I've driven in my life, and Gunter Steiner had to come down and say, "Okay, Kevin, this is enough. We are all
Yeah.
unhappy about it." So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, suddenly now in his time away from Formula One, and now he's come back in, and suddenly he's on the money. He's able to go at it right from the word go. And sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see Haas where they are up there, but I think it's also down to the Ferrari powertrain.
Yes.
Let's be honest about it. Ferrari have made huge, it's actually made a lot of steps in terms of performance. They've gone up really hard and they've upgraded their engine to a fair amount of, I mean, to a competitive level against the Red Bull powertrain. Definitely, Mercedes now is the third best power team in, on the grid in that way. Mercedes power is not really up there against the Red Bull powertrain and Ferrari. So Haas is definitely benefiting from it. And with Magnussen, let's remember he's still a feisty driver, but
Yes.
uh, but incidentally he also keeps his racing very clean. Of course, there is going to be a little bit of wheel banging here and there, but he's a feisty but clean driver. Let's put it that way. And it's nice to see him performing the way he is with Haas in this year, and it's really nice to see Haas up there because we were reaching a point where Gene Haas was contemplating whether staying in Formula One
Yeah.
is a good prospect for his company and his business or not. So it's always sad to see teams leave Formula One due to a lack of performance and lack of results because there is so much of money that goes in. There is an investment. There are people associated with that racing team. There are jobs on the line, and yeah, it's not just about who's winning and who's not. It's also
Yes.
about uh, the mid table, and the ones running at the back. So because not everyone can be a victor, right? I mean, somebody has to come first, and somebody has to come in the midfield, and somebody unfortunately has to come last. So yeah, in a way, it's nice that Haas is there, and suddenly now Mr. Gene Haas would see meaning in participating in this because nobody wants to be you know in a venture that's not really bringing any benefit to
Yeah.
his establishment. So that's very important.
Yes, K-Mag now can take as many lows as he wants. Yeah, that's one of the memes that after Bahrain GP, like, the
Oh, yeah,
qualifying was so good,
yeah.
like, literally, like,
And I
Haas
still
was,
think I still think the Haas car is going to be very strong in Australia as long as they keep their wheel nuts, you know,
oh,
attached.
oh yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, that was literally
because
really
we had
bad.
2 races back to back when they had loose wheel nuts that actually prematurely ended um, or growth. Grosjean and
Yeah,
Magnussen's races. So
yeah.
that's been
I
very
hope, I
important.
hope, yeah, I hope that should.
I hope I've not jinxed anything right now.
Let's not.
Yeah,
Let's hope that a good race weekend in Australia, I think it's very important for them to perform really good. And really good to see them in the midfield, right? Like, not even in the midfield, I think in the
yeah, yeah.
front actually. To be honest,
Mm,
like, it's really good to see them. I think any new team that's coming in the front, I think is really good for F1 on a whole, right? Like,
mm,
it's exciting for the fans, like, that sees the battles. Like Kevin Magnussen against Lewis Hamilton, and he really pulled off that move. That was really cool, right? And
yeah.
even against he tried the same against Alonso as well, but I think he couldn't. Like Alonso didn't buy that, I think, and it was really tough for him to pull that maneuver on Alonso. But yeah, great
But
battle between us.
but also like I mean, you know, K-Mag is from Denmark, so the Danish fans, when they see their guy in Formula One racing the way he is,
Hmm.
obviously it adds more popularity to the sport. Like, for example, we see, Kubica's Polish fans, they love seeing him on Formula One, whenever he's at a practice session or even when he was racing,
Yes.
like last year when Kimi had the COVID bout. So it's all, they're passionate about it. So even for the Danish fans, when they see Magnussen performing the way he is in a Haas, with the machinery that they have right now, and considering the mediocrity that Haas had to go through in the past 2 3 seasons, it's amazing to see the kind of turnaround the regulations have brought. And like we said, I remember the car launches. Nobody knew what the pecking order would be. Nobody really
Yeah.
knew who got it right and who got it wrong. But now we are actually seeing the results on
Yes.
track. And sometimes even the testing data doesn't really give you representative um, times and the true pecking order up until it is when you're going wheel to wheel on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes the big difference.
Yeah. So yeah, let's hope K-Mag and Haas will make Schumacher, like,
Yeah,
had a really big shunt in qualifying. Let's hope
yeah.
they kind of come back together as strong as a team, and
Mm.
maybe they score. I think will the first race. I think Cam Magnussen scored points. Mick has not scored points yet, but yeah, I think let's hope he gets back in the car and scores points for Haas. I think that'll be really good to see him score points. I think he's scoring
I,
his first F1 points, right?
I think yeah, it's also down to uh, like I said, you have to keep it clean
Yeah.
and be consistent. So sometimes you push that little bit extra to eke out that extra level of performance, and everything can go wrong. We've seen that happen so often. Charles at Monaco last year,
Yes. Oh my God.
yeah, and I mean, who else? I mean, there are innumerable examples, but right now, off of my head, right now, I can or a Max in FP3,
Yeah.
again at a Monaco,
Yeah. I can remember. Oh, yeah.
so yeah, sometimes you just put a little bit of more, a little bit extra into your performance, and suddenly it can all go awry. So
Yeah.
you just have to be careful of what is the true limit of your car and beyond the limit, but at the same time not have anything in reserve. That's a very fine line.
Yes. 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 Let's move on to another interesting and close battle that we witnessed in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was between the both Alpines, like, Fernando
Oh,
Alonso and Esteban Ocon. Oh my God, literally heart in the mouth moment. They were so close to each other for comfort, and the team principal, like, immediately they came on the they asked Sky Sports F1 asked teammate
Otmar,
Starkner, yeah, Outmark, like, what are your thoughts on for the racing, right? He
let them
was
race for
literally
now.
cool. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
literally cool. He's like, okay, as far as Bottas doesn't overtake us, we are literally okay with it.
yeah.
Let them race. This is what we want to see. I like, okay, I mean, come on, they're literally really close to each other. And and yeah, I mean, Ocon has been kind of in the past, we've seen his partnership with Stroll, like, they clashed a couple
With
of
Sergio as
times.
well, with
Yeah,
Perez as well.
with
Yeah,
Perez
yeah.
as well, like, they've banged wheels and they've got into contact with each other a couple of times previously. But yeah, I think with Fernando Alonso, they've got really good rapport. Like, they saw their win last year, Hungarian GP. Like, they played, both of them played a really important role in
Yeah.
Ocon's win. And
And then also
now,
Alonso's podium, fight like a lion.
yes, Alonso put him as well. I think it was all a team effort. And now, like, both of them racing against each other. And literally, they were quite close to each other. And Ocon was like, on top of Alonso for that moment. So, what are your thoughts on Alpine facing each other?
Well, it's again a very difficult situation there because uh, Alonso is a world champion, double world
Yeah.
champion. So,
Yes.
uh, and Ocon has won championships in the feeder series. So
Yes.
uh, let's not forget that.
Yeah.
And when you are in a position where you think that yeah, I can actually score big for the team, or I can be the faster of the two drivers, then you would go for it. In fact, JB rightly pointed out, because Jensen has been Alonso's teammate at
Yes.
McLaren. He said
Yes.
he can be a great guy, but he absolutely hates the fact that a teammate is going to beat him on the track. So that is the thing with Fernando. I mean, you can't again, you can't fault him for that, because there's a saying in motorsport: your teammate can is your biggest enemy. So is
Yes.
your biggest opponent, because he has the same machinery as you on the rim. So yeah, in a way, I think with Alpine letting them race the way they did today, I think they were probably they had accepted the fact that okay, we can't really fight the guys in front, and
Mhm.
we have enough in the bag or in our armory to hold off the guys at the back. So we should be okay. But then, of course, you had Bottas and K Mag. Uh,
Yes. Who joined the
yeah,
party?
yeah, and both. I mean, of course, one error by either driver, a slide, or an off track,
Yeah. It's
would
gonna
have
end.
opened up the doors for both these two guys to go. And of course, now in hindsight, you say that Alonso suffered a retirement. Bottas got out of the race, so
Yeah.
nothing really mattered. And K Mag eventually ended up P9, and Ocon got the better of Norris on the
Yes.
penultimate lap. So
Yeah.
so so I guess Otmar, based on the data that he had in front of him, he was quite confident of what they were looking at achieving with
Yes.
uh, Ocon and Alonso, of course. I still think though that there will be something simmering, you know, between the two teammates now, for sure,
Yes.
because
Definitely.
neither driver would like to forget. Of course, they will maintain a very straight face and diplomatic and diplomacy when it comes to answering the media and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
once the visor goes down and you get behind the wheel, these old incidents and the history doesn't really go away like we've
Yeah.
seen in the past time. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, closest of friends, turned rivals, and to the point of turning enemies.
Yes.
So, and things did not really get on the mend until Nico finally hung up his boots, and they
Yeah.
kind of started to have some sort of a cordial conversation
Yes.
with Nico hanging up his boots at the end of 2016. So yeah, there is no such thing as, of course, everybody wants to be the number one driver in the team. So there is, whether it's a midfield team or whether it's a top tier team. So in a way, both drivers want to put their foot down and fight for supremacy at the start of the season. So in a way, Alpine is letting them do what they want to see and assess, who does what and how they maximize when being in such a situation, how they come out well. Because let's be honest about it, Ocon is the future. So,
Yes.
and Alonso, he doesn't have age on his side. So probably they might get another season at best from him. And then eventually you have such a brilliant talent in Oscar Piastri waiting in the wings
Yeah.
that you cannot really waste on the sidelines. So, so it has to be. So, I mean, if I was Otmar, then I would of course be looking towards the future, and the future is with Ocon. So if battling wheel to wheel today gives him experience against a veteran and wily old fox like Alonso, then why not? Because let's be honest, Alpine for sure is not going to be in the entitled contention this year. So It's all about gaining more experience on track in close wheel to wheel racing, and then
Yes.
eventually, if and when they do have a title winning car, then Ocon would have experience enough to go out there and win races and win the title if he does get a car under his belt of that caliber.
Yeah. Like you said, once you've got the visor down, then
Yeah,
everyone's your enemy, right? Even your
that's
teammate is your enemy, right?
that's
You
what
don't.
that's what happened with me in go-kart. Like I always say, when the visor goes down, all the everything else in this world kind of fades away. The
Yes.
stress, the thoughts, the tension, anything else other than you just focus. This is the track in front of you and the cart below you. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So
it's like that.
yeah, a great one. In fact, I think we've covered most of it. I think McLaren still have a great day. I think they kind of are on the back foot according to me. But yeah, I think they scored. They managed to score points with
Yeah.
Norris. I think he got overtaken at the end by Esteban Ocon,
Ocon,
right?
Ocon,
Yeah,
yeah, on the penultimate lap, yeah.
yeah. So I think, but yeah, even they managed to score good points. I think P7 is what he finished, and Ricciardo suffered a DNF. I think still, I think they need a lot of work to do. I think it's just a start, but I think it's high time. Ricciardo uh, didn't actually perform his best last year. I think towards the end, possibly, I think Monza was really good, yes, but I think he didn't actually show, his magic yet in McLaren. I think it's high time for him to kind of, get in the points, consistently score points, and that help McLaren finish P3 or P4 or even P5, right?
With Daniel, I mean, I'm kind of struggling to understand what his real challenges are. Of course, in the first year, he was finding his feet and everything. Last year, you can understand that, but now he must have spent a good amount of time behind the simulator. Of course, the car is not where it should be in terms of performance, but then when you're comparing him against his teammate, that's Lando. Lando is still performing better than him on the track in terms of outright pace, be it in qualifying or in the race. So there is, but then again, with McLaren, it's really hard to assess where they are at the moment because in Bahrain they were nowhere, and then suddenly in Jeddah they seem to have found somewhat of a performance in that car. So uh, how they are going to perform in Australia? Well, like I said, since it's a Mercedes powered car, uh, they might be in a better position in terms of getting a better result. And of course, it's Daniel's home race, so
Yeah.
he needs to he needs to put in a good result. For the fans there, he may not want him to have another mediocre day at the office. He's not
Yes.
really had the best of days whenever he's been at Albert Park. So even at his first race in Renault, I remember that
Yeah. He
off
went
the line his front
in
wing
the
just gave way.
yeah
Yeah,
the
on the
start.
grass.
Yeah, the start
Yeah.
itself, right?
So there is a lot at stake because in a way Ricardo's career has gone into a downward spiral after his
Yes.
time at Red Bull. Sometimes, of course, he didn't really have the right machinery under him, but even at McLaren now, machinery aside, in terms of his performance at an intra-team level, it's not really where you would want it to be. So, and again, he doesn't really have age on his side. He's, he's well advanced and experienced enough now in Formula One. So you would want him to get those results out sooner rather than later. So in a way, I am a bit disappointed again, like you rightly pointed out with Daniel. But what really is the issue? Whether it's just getting to grips with how the car behaves, or whether it's general balance, what it is exactly, I really don't. I mean, I'm not able to really pinpoint the issue here. So I do hope he gets a better outing in Australia because it will be good for the Aussie fans as well. But Lando today, good shift put in by him, good result. Of course, you would have. That is something I kind of find a bit bizarre. Uh, the the finish line is sooner than the start line. In Formula One, like sometimes you feel, oh, that's very close to the start of the DRS zone. Probably, if they had it where the five red lights were, then you would actually have, the guy who's chasing would have a little bit more of the DRS
Yeah,
assistance. And who knows? Like, for example, who knows? Maybe Leclerc could have nicked Max off the line, off that line there. But I've seen that at so many circuits now that the finish line is so comes up so early. Like in Monza, for example, the same thing happened in Monza as well. You come out of the parabolica
yeah.
and your finish line is right up there. So you would rather have it few hundred, 200, 300, 400 meters ahead, and then suddenly you have a race to the line if there are guys side by side. So kind of negates the effect of the DRS on the final lap.
Yes,
Eh,
actually, that is a very good point. Actually, to be honest, like even during the last lap battle between Max and Charles, I was really contemplating, like, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. And
mm,
as soon as Charles like pulled off the first move, like he let Max by, and he kind of overtook him after DRS and
mm,
at the long straight. And then the second time, he kind of was trying to pull off the same trick and then couldn't. And Max also was like, okay, I'll wait, and then he took it. And then the third time, Max was really smart, and he's like, okay, I'm not gonna buy that again, and he let him pass. And then I started contemplating, okay, what is Charles gonna do next? What is Charles gonna do next? I'm like, okay, he can possibly overtake Max towards the end, like maybe 49th lap. That's when
mm,
he can overtake him. But yeah, I think like you said, if F1 would have had the finish line right at the where they have the starting lights, I think the DRS effect would have been in place, and
yes.
possibly you never know. Charles could have, you never know, but yeah, that's like a big what if
But
right
yeah,
there.
ifs and buts don't really matter. What matters is what was the result at the end of the day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we can discuss the if and buts for hours on end and never find any conclusion out of it.
Yes, yes. But yeah, all in all, a great race, a great weekend. I think this race weekend entirely on a whole was really exciting. I think we right from qualifying, right from uh,
Yeah,
the bizarre stuff that happened on the qualifying night as well, like whether they should race or no. I think there was a lot happening on the racetrack, whether there should be racing or no. I think we had a really exciting race weekend on a whole. I think it was
mm,
a really eventful race weekend. But yeah, I mean, not an ideal race weekend for sure. Like uh, drivers and team principals deciding whether it should race or no. Not an ideal thing to
mm,
discuss when you're at the circuit. That's really F1 should think about that. I think
mm,
before going to that country or that circuit, whether there should be
yeah,
racing there or no. I think not an ideal race weekend, but eventful. Race wise, it was quite exciting right from qualifying till the end of the race. But yeah, the crashes were, I think, bizarre. I mean, crazy. I think the safety is pretty good in F1 right now, but I think on an whole, yeah, let's hope make is back in action in a race car pretty
yeah.
soon.
Well, that was quite a dangerous sight to see. That Haas dangling and then the gearbox, the rear portion of that Haas just falling out.
Yes.
The rear wing just hanging by hydraulic pipe, hydraulic line. That was insane to watch.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah,
I think with the new regs, they've kind of made the new regs as such, wherein the rear has to come off during such collisions, and it kind of
yeah,
showed that the new regs are kind of
15% more withstanding capacity, I think, against
yes,
crashes. That's what
yes,
came up yesterday.
yes,
That statistic.
and even the G forces were quite high. Maybe 70 is what I
Wow.
heard. Not sure of it though, but yeah, it was quite
Mm.
crazy. I think, yeah, I'm glad to see Mick back at the racetrack, and hope Haas can kind of even
Well, I
recovering.
think
Yeah.
I think it was also with Haas fearing that if he had done the crash, then they would not have enough parts for Australia. So it kind of
Yes.
goes to show kind of how limited their spares are uh, for the races that they're away at. from mainland Europe. So
Yes, I think it made perfect sense for them to kind of not race. I think that was a really big shunt. I think Mick or any race driver, I think it would have been really difficult for any race driver to make it back to the racetrack on the very next day, and even the entire team, like getting that
yeah,
race car right from scratch. I think repairing it and getting repairing it from scratch. I think it
they
would
would
have
have
been
had
really
to
difficult.
they would had to break the curfew hours also. So
Yes,
that would have been
yes. I think all in all,
also a
it
big.
made good sense to kind of just participate
Mm,
and focus directly on Australia. I think they've got a really good
yeah,
car
correct.
under their belt, and they
Yeah,
can score good points.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's uh, with regards to F1, they unfortunately off late, there are more controversies happening off track than on it. Of course, there has been controversy on track also. Let's not. There are memories are still fresh in many people's minds. So, but yeah, I mean, as much as Liberty is doing in terms of making Formula One the global sport that it should be, we also have to be mindful of things that happen off track and be sensitive uh, to certain things in life. So that is something that I do hope that Formula One addresses in the future. But yes, all in all, quite an eventful weekend, and thankfully, uh, whatever happened in terms of the racing was restricted. It was all that happened was on track. Nothing really, no external factors really affecting the event directly. So, of course, there was what it was that happened in the vicinity and proximity of the track. Uh, we're thankful that the teams and drivers can now safely fly out of the country and look to going down under and then racing at Albert Park. Melbourne.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yes. So to sum it up, if you could just describe the race in 3 words.
Rapidly fast. That's 2 words actually. Let's put a hyphen there.
Yep.
DRS affected. Another hyphen
DRS.
there.
Yeah. I think DRS was really, really
And
crazy.
tactical
So
also. Yes.
yeah, tactics. I think tactical was literally like
Yeah.
came back. Charles Leclerc literally on their toes with respect to this tactic that they're using for the overtakes.
Hopefully, I think the screenings wherever they have been posted, they would have had some. They would have had a ball of a time again
Yep.
with all the craziness in terms of the wheel to wheel battles that they got
Yes.
to see
Yes.
up there.
Yes. Yes. And I hope screenings must have gone really good as well.
Yeah. But yeah, again, safety car, safety car coming in again and putting a spanner in the works for some drivers like Sergio and
Yes.
Lewis with the pit lane, of course, getting shut. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't really account for when a safety car failure will happen and when it won't happen. That's
Yeah.
that's how it is
There
Formula
was
One.
on the team radio, like I think Nico Hulkenberg, the race engineer was like, okay, stay out as long as possible. We would expect a safety car and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's not possible. Like I think
yeah,
F1, anything can happen. Like safety car can come out any good amount of time. It cannot come out as well. It's pure
yeah.
racing. Like racing is you've got hard days, more hard days in racing than good days, and I think that's the sport, and that's how the sport is. It's really very crazy, interesting, exciting, brutal sport. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is F1, guys. So yeah,
True that.
some words of wisdom, Ankush. Some words of wisdom for the viewers watching this.
Well, nothing really to add, really, except that keep following the Formula One season with the kind of vigor and passion that you guys have seen. I mean, we've seen up until now. Uh, this is only the beginning, and what we've seen in the beginning kind of promises to be even more exciting.
Yep.
And whatever follows now will only get better because there will be teams that are playing catch up, getting better equipment, upgrades, and the field will get tighter eventually. you'll get to see more wheel-to-wheel battles. So keep at it, and keep following the sport with the same vigor and passion that you guys have followed up until now. And I do hope that whoever you support uh, have better days at at the office if they haven't had one. And if you do support someone who is already winning, then I do hope that he continues to win. So yeah, that's what it.
Sure. That's very kind of you, Ankush. Yeah, please do keep watching the sport. I think it's super
Yeah.
exciting. It's just a start, like Ankush said, and I think we've got a really great start. With Bahrain GP, Saudi Arabian. I think both have been really eventful, exciting. The races have been really good. Match
And
starts
then
have
what
been
follows now will be a very different kind of racing track with a very different characteristic to it. And
yes,
how the teams perform and how they adapt to this kind of a different challenge that comes their way will be interesting to watch. So do keep your eyes peeled onto the TVs and see how your favorite team or favorite driver performs at a totally different track with a totally different characteristic to it in
yes,
a
yes.
park.
Yes. I think yeah, new racetracks. It's all really something to look forward to. New racetracks. The characteristics are different. There are more slow corners, fast corners,
Yeah,
longer straights, less longer straights. So I think there's a
yeah,
lot to it. I think this is just a start, and I think it's an exciting start. F1's going in the right direction is what I think, and yeah, let's hope we see a more exciting 2022 F1 season.
yeah.
Yep.
It's already started on the right note, so it's only onwards and upwards from
Yes. Let's hope
yeah,
that is the case, Ankush.
yeah,
Yeah, a big thank you to Ankush Ahuja for sharing his thoughts with us. Massive thank you. I think it's got quite late and it's quite late in the night when we're recording this,
yeah.
so really appreciate it. It's right after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix,
Yeah.
so it's quite late in
Well,
India where we're recording
they
this.
actually want to increase their viewership in the states, so they have some really long nights. You have to give credit to the guys, in the Far East, in places like Japan and Hong Kong, who are actually watching the races because it would already be early Monday morning there. So
Yeah. I think
yeah,
4 hour driver meetings we had with this 4 hour driver meetings this weekend. So I think yeah, massive thank you, Ankush, for
thank you.
sharing your thoughts at this time of the day and this time of the night. Really appreciate it and looking forward to have many more conversations of F1 in the near
Yes,
future with you. And
yes,
hope you enjoy the rest of the week. I think the week's
yeah,
gonna start. Yeah,
yeah.
do enjoy it and look forward to see you in the next few
Stressful
races.
Mondays now
Yeah,
coming our way. And guys, do like, share, comment, subscribe to Naren Harwani's channel. He's doing a really good job, and his subscriber list is growing. That's nice to see.
yeah.
Uh, that's, and I do hope it keeps on rising exponentially with all
Thanks.
the content that he's been doing. It takes in, it's a lot of man hours that goes into something like this. The editing and adding bits and segments to it, and it's not easy for anyone to actually run a YouTube channel. It's very easy to be armchair analyst and say, it's no big deal. But yeah, considering the fact that when you actually sit down and format and draft and upload things on social media or on YouTube, there is a lot at stake. So yeah, there's a lot of effort that goes in. So do like, share, comment, subscribe.
Thanks a ton, Ankush. I really appreciate
Yeah,
your kind
yeah,
words and it means a lot to me. I think thanks for your time, your effort, your kind words, and really looking forward to have more conversations in the future about F1 as well. And
yeah.
enjoy the week.
Hopefully
Thanks,
we
guys.
get to see each other at a screening for the
Yep,
Australian Grand Prix. Let's see if something
yep.
comes up there. Yeah,
Sure. Looking
yeah,
forward for that. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks a lot,
Okay.
everyone, for watching this, and hope you all enjoy the upcoming Australian Grand Prix. See you all. Bye bye.
Okay.